So I'm now bringing in our guests for our panel discussion hour. So I'm going to bring you in and introduce you. We have Julia Alden, who joined us yesterday, and she's back with us again today. Good morning. Julia is a teacher and school leader in international education. She loves leading schools in fostering education's essential components in teaching, learning, developing best practices across the schools. She has an additional diploma as a wellbeing practitioner, combining teaching and learning with whole school wellbeing development and social emotional capacity building in young children. Learning and wellbeing are inextricably linked, and their development goes hand in hand. Join us. Thank you so much for joining us again, Julia.
Thanks. Great to be here again. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to be sort of building on a little bit of the things that we talked about yesterday and delving in a little bit deeper. But we also have coming to join us, we have Kishori, Jani. Let me just bring you in. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for joining us. So Kishori Jani is a mother of 4. Well done for even making it to the video. A Sanskrit teacher and Eastern wisdom coach. She was born and raised in India in a temple setting to an American mother and Gujarati father who were both Hindu priests. She gained a deep understanding of the Vedic scriptures and was trained in monastic life. She later obtained her degree in biochemistry from UCLA in Los Angeles, USA, and also worked there in academia for many years. This unique blend of spiritual upbringing and professional skills has enabled her to share timeless Vedic wisdom in a more applicable and relevant way. Thank you so much for joining us, Kishori. So the things we're going to be talking about with you this morning is we're focusing on sort of experiential learning and conscious parenting. So Ekta, just bring us in with that and tell us a little bit about that.
It's a very special topic for me, especially because this is something that I have been working as in autonomy with children on a very deep-rooted base, using storytelling as a tool to impart experiential learning in children. Now, this is a term that I didn't know 5 years back, but it's only now that I've realized this is exactly what we were doing. So I'll just go back to what I think experiences are and why we use this method, So I believe experiences are everyday events that leave an imprint in our mind, right? Now, if these imprints have an emotion attached to that, they become memories. And then eventually these memories become our anchor points to reflect and probably learn a new lesson, or to just hold on for hope and happiness in our life. We just look at our childhood memories and there are lessons now that we learn. So in a way, experiences are events which have a special emotion, which can become your lessons. So I think the question that we must be really discussing today is, as a conscious parent or as mentors, what must be the role of what must be our role in a child's life in guiding the emotions that one can extract to experience? And I think that's where that's what I learned in all these 5 years, that as a mentor or as a parent, we must only guide a child to experience something and let those emotions come out. For example, let's say if I've gone to a theme park, if someone goes to a theme park and like me is scared of very scary rides or high. Now, if the child is interested in going and I just say, but don't go on the ride, it's too scary. Without letting the child experience something, I've put an emotion there. So I believe that's what experiential learning is, to allow the child to experience something, derive the emotions that can be derived from that experience based on his own knowledge, reflect on it, and take an action. And which is where author in me comes. Through storytelling, when we tell a child to write a story, we are allowing the child to experience an event through the story. We are not saying, we are writing a story in friendship and it has to be positive, it has to be good. Let the child define his own definition of friendship. What does friendship mean to you? What emotion does it bring out for you? Maybe there hasn't been a good experience about friendship. Maybe that's something that this child wants to bring out in us through a story. And we don't have to be the ones to define that emotion. We have to be the ones to just guide through it. And then what comes from that is something, a deeper reflection of my, like we was talking, observation, observing the people around, observing his own experiences, reflecting on what knowledge the child already has about friendship, and then creating a little scene out of it. And then, of course, we take it to the second part and publish it as a book, which then becomes a very lifelong memory and something that becomes an anchor point for new lessons. So I believe that's what experiential learning is, when you allow the child to just expand and grow in whatever capacity the child can connect to it without putting your own emotions. You allow the child to experience the emotions.
And I think in sort of the modern world and modern parenting, there is an almost irresistible urge to control every element of your child's emotions and experiences, and we kind of, I feel like we need to take a step back from that a little bit. What do you think about that, Kishori? Is that something that you sort of bring in with your how do you control 4 children?
Well, thank you for having me here. I mean, I'm just really thrilled to be discussing such a personal thing for me. So how do you not control? So this is a very interesting junction of ideas, because on the one hand, I would like to share that actually the Vedic system of experiential learning, as you may put it. I had to kind of look that up. What do you mean by that? but to me, it's just like you're explaining, like, what are the experiences that create a foundation of learning for a child? And when I go back to my own upbringing and what I understand the Vedic system to be, it's a little bit more catered in the beginning, because the idea is that the child should have this all-encompassing feeling of empowerment by understanding that they are the spiritual, empowered, eternal, full of light, full of knowledge being. That this foundational spiritual identity, and in one sense, you could say it's imparted very deeply, and it's maybe controlled to the point where you're like, okay, this is who you are. You are this eternal being. You are not just the external way you look, the external way your abilities and talents play out in this specific body. There's a most foundational education that any child would get in the Vedic system is the big universal picture. Why are you here? Who are you? Why, why do we have these experiences in the first place? So going back on my own childhood, I realized that because of that foundational, very basic principle, I never had a sense of lacking, because I always was told I am fully complete in myself. My identity, my spiritual identity is so eternal. It's so complete. And nobody can take it away from me, no matter how many exams I fail or what I look like, or, how fat or skinny I am. It doesn't matter, because I am an eternal soul, eternal spirit, full of light, full of knowledge, Satchidananda Vigraha, like this very old Sanskrit statement saying that, yes, I'm enough. I'm complete. I am eternal. And so that universal identity was taught at a very, very foundational age to everyone, right? And then it funnels down into a more personal identity, which, if you talk about control, it seems many people have a misconception that maybe the ancient Eastern wisdom might be a little controlling. There's a lot of caste system and varnas and ashramas. You're Brahmana or you're like a Shudra. But actually, those identities were only meant to help us find a place in society. Like, what is my role? What is my purpose in life? Who am I meant to be interacting with what intention? What service am I supposed to be doing as a part of my experience in life? Because in an attempt to free ourselves and free our children in this day and age, we are not imparting any values, because value-based education has completely been put aside, because we don't want to label anyone. We don't want to label any child as a good learner, a bad learner, or black or white, or any kind of labels. And it's really important that we don't, because that goes back to that universal identity. You are not your external abilities. It's true. We are not. But we live in a world where we have to function. So what is our relationship with each other? Where do I fit in? Now that is a contradiction of ideas. If I don't know where I fit in, what am I supposed to do? What is my day-to-day purpose then? Okay, I'm not so and so and so, but what am I supposed to do? So you'll find, I talk to a lot of parents, and I'm sure you would agree that a lot of parents, when children are entering their teenage years, it is a real crisis of identity.
Yes.
And a lack of purpose. Like, what am I supposed to do? Okay, I have no labels. No one can tell me what to do. I am a brand new person, and I'm just this big, ball of potential. I am a spirit of potential, but then there's no actual guidance. There's no actual value-based direction. So there's just a lot of, I would say, struggle for power and identity crises as such. And so I'm just going back to my own upbringing and realizing that there's a really fine line of, okay, we're saying we don't want to control our children. We don't want to control our children for sure. That's just, but on the same token, we cannot fail to give them a sense of purpose and a sense of identity in this world, because that's literally leaving them high and dry with no tools on how to navigate life. So I don't know if that's...
I think it's interesting, because that makes me think that, again, it's about kind of words have power, and the difference between control and guide. So that those are sort of two different things, that where we can look at it and say, what am I doing? Am I trying to control this situation, or am I trying to guide? And I think, again, that's sort of words have power. Julia, how about you, on the same sort of context within obviously your school settings? What do you think about this sort of experiential learning, and how people can use that?
Yeah. Well, yes, I'm going at it from a little bit of a different angle, but it's still all connected, because schools are such a part of our children's lives, almost as much as families. But I think I'll tell a story, my own story, to get into this. And that is that I studied to be a trainer. I trained to be a teacher, many, many years ago. And I really learned at the heart of teaching about experiential learning. That was from Dewey and from Freire and Piaget. And it was such a instrumental part of my training. Well, then I got into, and in fact, Dewey, I think, says that all learning is experiential. All is based in experience.
Makes sense.
Then I got into teaching, and more I found that I was becoming bored, because even as a teacher, I was given textbooks, and the textbooks told me what to say, and the textbook said, this is how the student will respond. And it just didn't seem to me that was what experiential learning was all about. So I did get the privilege of going into being a teacher in international schools, and that's where I've been for the rest of my career. But I got involved in a project which was called the International Schools Curriculum Project, which then became the IB program. And it was a group of teachers that came together to form a curriculum. It wasn't called experiential learning. It's based on inquiry-based learning. So I found that there are so many parts of inquiry-based learning that are so linked to experiential learning. It's about asking questions, finding out. So it's not only about asking questions about your life, who am I, how do I do this, but how do I learn this? Why is it important to me? And this was the foundation of this program. And for me, I found, oh my gosh, this is exciting. I'm engaged. I'm challenged. And I think that is a good story to sort of look at children in their learning situations as to, are they engaged? Are they bringing their own interest? Are they asking good questions? How much ownership do they have of what they are learning about? And I think, Ekta, you talked about this, and I think it's really, really important in this framework that I learned. The idea that children bring so many different dimensions to the learning process, and that is, as you said, their emotions, what they already know, where they are in their life, in their journey, where they are geographically in their presence, and also what their needs and what their wants are. And this idea that Vygotsky is known for, this constructivism, social constructivism of learning, I think is so important. And that is, every child and every person in the world brings their own meaning to what they are learning.
Absolutely.
So when we just look at schools as transference of learning, of transfers of knowledge, for example, then we're not getting at sometimes we're not getting at any of those dimensions of learning. So that is why this framework, we could call, was so engaging for me and so important. And that really, in my story, was a catalyst. So I worked in that system in that framework for many, many years. And of course, it takes a long time to learn how to allow children to be at the center of their learning experience in schools, and how teachers have to be able to have children be at the center of their learning experience. It's not an easy thing, but I think it's well worth it. I think it's as you see with the children who are learning through writing and experiencing that really personally, that it is the way to engage and to learn deeply about something.
Wow. I mean, I can only say that I think, so I'm just coming in here, that hearing what deep knowledge that Kishori said about, building that foundation of spiritual knowing that you're already enough, and then the schools expanding on that further. I think it's a combination of both that needs to be made.
I mean, it's an incredible message. I think that you are enough. That again, it's that sort of simple thing, isn't it? From the very beginning, you are enough is a very powerful statement to say to a child. And I think, as parents, as teachers, in education systems and all sorts of settings, we probably don't say that enough or anything close to it, because we're constantly bringing them back and trying to, and because they don't have potentially as much freedom as they used to have.
But I think if I could just go back to this point I made, and I think that's an incredibly important point, is this we have everything we need, but it's also that children bring with them enormous capabilities and enormous knowledge and understandings. And I think that often, and I wouldn't say that in every schools, because being in schools is a big job, but I think it's about letting go a bit and allowing a process of self-direction and self-knowledge and how am I going to find that out, and letting that child just take charge of their learning. So whether it's about themselves or about something else in school.
I fully agree with that. That actually once the education begins, I'm just speaking from the perspective of the Vedic system, that then it's fully child-led. Actually, the imparting of knowledge was not meant to be like this rigid structure that all of you get this set of knowledge. It was never like that. So what you're describing is really spot on in terms of investing a lot of time and energy, because it comes at a cost, doesn't it, to allow this child-led learning when the child is allowed to explore their own interests and their own potential and strengths. It takes a lot of energy and resources that I think in this day and age, there's just it's like a machine, it's kind of like we're just all funneled through that massive system. And it's difficult, but that's not how it's meant to be. It never was like that, even in ancient times, and even now. The philosophy has always said that the child, intuitively, we do know best. We always knew what we wanted to do deep down. If you're an artist, or if you're a musician, or if you're a performer, or if you're really into math, and very few of us decided very early on, I'm going to spend the rest of my life doing math.
Did my maths on us?
But
yes,
it's natural. Both components are really important. That the child be allowed to be an individual, free to express themselves. At the same time, have a loving guidance and this guru figure that allows that potential to really exponentially expand, and just this relationship between the teacher and student is sacred, and it's eternal, and it's not something that at the end of this I'm going to get something out of the student, and therefore let me just quickly finish it off. Let me quickly get them out the door so that they can go and make money and be part of the capitalist system. Factory.
Yes. And I think it's really so true what you're saying. Is about the teacher almost being a guru. Well, we don't call them gurus, but we call them facilitators. We're facilitating the development of each individual, and I think so. I think that is really a very good link to looking at the teacher and schools as being able to lead and facilitate and almost be a guru in a certain sense on this path of self-directed learning. And that doesn't mean that there's not things that kids have to learn. They do. Yes. They have to learn how to read and write and do math and all of those things. But those are just in some ways tools to help them go to something else. But the main thing is how do I become a self-directed learner? How do I learn about myself? How do I understand what's important to me and how to learn that? And I think, as you say, it's really it is a challenge to move from a more traditional way of learning, because there's so many reasons in the way that we have to do that. But I think that moving in that direction is so important, and particularly in today's time, because we can learn everything without a teacher.
Right.
So what's
scary? It's scary.
Because what is the role?
I'd quite like would like a movement towards not calling them teachers anymore and calling them guides or gurus and stuff like that, so that actually it's a softer approach, because I do think now
it's more organic. It's more truth. There is more honesty in that, I suppose, relationship. And I suppose that parents have a very huge role to play here. I mean, a parent will, just because they want to give the child every experience, they will go to a football football thing, or they will have a singing class, they will have everything, just because they want to give the child an experience before they turn 7 or 8 or whatever. You see them stressed more than anything else. And I find that let the child build on and grow into an experience naturally. Do not make it a task. Because what are we achieving by taking a child to a singing class and saying, you have an hour and then we have to go right after to the swimming, just because you want to tick all the boxes that my child is doing everything. But where is that grace, that patience in learning, that knowing that what is singing doing to you? And Kishori would know this, in Vedic system, how important it is for your voice to connect to your voice. And Julia, we would agree with me that, again, giving that experience to the child and making it very child-centric. What is singing? What does it mean to you to express? Where are you lacking? What is it bringing out of you? Are we discussing this all with our children? I understand schools can't, but parents can. In their own time, they can have a very deep discussions about these.
I actually like to think that schools.
Yes.
Oh, go ahead. No, I just do it very quickly because I do think that schools can do that.
Really?
I think that. I think they can, because all of those areas are so important. reading, yes, writing, important, but also music, also art. And through helping children learn the way to self-reflect, and that we brought that up yesterday. Well, what does this mean to me? We know that children are show their intelligence. They self-express in many, many different ways. And I think that schools, I've seen that this idea of self-reflection. How do you feel about that? What is that? How is that making you feel? Why is that important to you? Those are all essential questions that can be embedded in the school experience.
Right. I just thought I'd add that there is a really fine line, and it's actually, I would say, every parent's kind of journey within. You almost have to go through that journey of figuring out, okay, what does my child need? What are the strengths? What are the weaknesses? You know, so in the beginning, you do feel like you're just going through all. I'm gonna find out: is he a swimmer? Is he a singer? Is he a musician? Is he? So in the beginning, it feels really overwhelming, but it's so important to not allow that stream of thought to continue forever. Like, make them a jack of all and a master of none in one sense. Like, we want it in an effort to, play into the unlimited potential that a child might have, which goes back to this universal identity. Yes, the child is, we all should understand within that we are unlimited potential. But at the same time, when we are functioning within this reality, we must have clear and direct goals that are manageable and not unlimited.
Yes.
So it's this kind of constant teeter-tottering of we are unlimited, we are full of potential, we potentially could do anything, but at the same time, it's the parents, the guides' responsibility to be able to funnel that energy so that it doesn't just dissipate into nothingness. Literally, it's just like, it's just, if you're trying to do all those things, like you're saying, if as a parent you are realizing that every single moment of the day with your child is ticked, I would say at the time it's a red flag. It's kind of like, okay, it's time to step back and allow the child to then say, Mom, this is what I like doing, and this is what it should not be just one thing to the next thing.
Yeah, and because also obviously children fundamentally want to please you, so you could be.
Yes,
so they're going to
just keep going.
If you ask that direct question, do you like this? Well, because you're almost imprinting on them that you want them to like it.
Yes.
So then they come back and go, oh yeah, I love it, and then you're not necessarily getting the truth out of it. And that's where sort of trying to get a full understanding your child, and perhaps through storytelling or experiences and that kind of thing, to really discover and from having 4, but even just from having 2, they're so different. My son is obsessed with numbers and maths, which he does not get from me.
I wasn't taking a dig at math. I love math. And so
but he is. And my daughter's hardly ever present in any situation because she's just in a dream world, and they're so incredibly different. But they both, as you say, if you put any child in that situation where they want to please you, so you could be going, do this, do that, and you might be getting positive feedback, but at the end of the day, there might still be some stress going on there.
Absolutely, Sarah. And I've seen that, because when we give it a topic to write, for children to come to us to write stories. Now we ask them to let's use this trigger as a clock, as a trigger to write a story. Each one writes a different story based on his own experience of what the clock means to the child. Yeah.
Sorry, is anyone else hearing is it just mine? I'm going to turn off my mic if you don't mind, because it's a lot of.
Yeah. And that's fine. So each one will write a different story based on their own experience. And that itself shows how every child is interpreting life, situations, people, and circumstances in their own unique way. This is where that notion comes, that each one of us is unique in our own way. And if only we allow the child to expand into that uniqueness, as Kishori was rightly saying, we have to give each one of them the experience, but then understand, be very conscious. Here's the notion of conscious parenting comes. Be very conscious of the fact, what is it exactly that touch bases on my child spiritually or emotionally, intellectually, and where is it that I can allow him to grow? And again, if schools are able to do that, then there is a synergy created between home and schools, and there is no confusion in mind, because some of the children, like I said, come to us and they say, what is the story that we are supposed to write? What are we supposed to write about the clock? They are so tuned into the fact that they are supposed to follow certain steps. They're supposed to think in a certain way, looking at an object. And I find that very painful, because how are we allowing them to tap into their own experiences and knowledge which they carry? And if I can go back to the Vedic way, they are carrying these imprints not from this lifetime, many lifetimes, but and we have to give them the space to allow to open up to that. And stories, I suppose, but stories are a powerful medium only if we make it a powerful medium. If we make it a task, it becomes another task to do. And that's why most of the stories are started, but they don't end up getting finished, because it's a task to do.
Wow.
I suppose.
And I think that's it, isn't it? And I think it's that kind of.
I think. Go ahead.
Oh, we've lost you. We've lost you there for a second.
I'm really sorry. I can't hear anything. I'm going to leave the studio and come back if that's okay.
Okay, yeah, no problem. That's fine. I can bring you back in.
Thank you.
Okay, let's see. I was saying, oh no, I lost my thought. But I think that's why in schools, this idea of experiential learning is so key. And that is is giving choice and giving freedom for students to actually choose what they want to learn about. Okay, it might be that you're learning about energy, but there's many, many things about energy that you can learn about. So let the student have freedom and autonomy, because we want them to become independent learners. We don't want them to be asking that question, did I do it right? What am I supposed to do?
Yes.
And you see that all the time. I worked in some schools where we began to never see that. It was almost the reverse. No, you really need to do this. But I think, it's really all about thinking. It's about being independent, having autonomy, and self-actualization. So this idea of self-actualization comes from giving children all of those things. Guidance, yes, but the ability to choose and to have freedom in what they explore, what they discover.
So kind of bringing that all sort of together a little bit into something that potentially could be sort of concise for parents. So if there were 3 steps that a parent could take to support experiential learning, what do you, then this goes to anybody whoever wants to respond, what would you recommend in terms of 3 steps you could do to support that kind of learning?
One thing that comes to my mind is asking your children questions, good questions. Why are you interested in that? How can you find out more about it? How can I help you find out more about it? And I think those asking questions is a phenomenal way of getting the relationship there, is that you are important. You have those skills. You can find them. So I would say that asking really good questions, deep questions, searching questions.
Because the go on, Kishori.
Oh no.
No, I was going to say, because I think sometimes this comes up a lot. I think where people say when you pick up your child from school and you say, "How was school today?" and it's too big a question, because there's so much that goes on. So you've got to kind of hone in on something. Normally I'll just get, I might be able to find out the color of the tray that they had their lunch on. That might be as much information as you get. But particularly if you ask such a broad question, so kind of trying to nail it in, to, I don't know, who did you play with? Was it forest school today? And all of those things, so that you can really hone in on what their experiences are.
Absolutely.
I really resonate with what Julie just said, that just spending that time in a conscious and a intentional way. Like when we ask those questions, like Sarah's saying, to make it a little bit more intentional than just how's your day? Like what do you, the questions you're saying, like what are you interested in, and how can I help you explore that? That's a really powerful tool. And to add to that, like on a daily basis, reminding them of their unlimited potential, that they are this eternal. For me, it's been really powerful to repeatedly hear from my parents growing up that I am, this spirit that has unlimited potential. It really helped me build a sense of identity and not have a sense of lacking, and not have a need to attach my identity to anything that was material that was around me. So I didn't have much growing up. We were 8 kids, and so we just barely had enough to go around, and yet I never felt a sense of lacking. Now that's, in this day and age, my kids have pretty much everything they need, and yet you'll see at times like, well, I really want this, and it's just so the sense of fulfillment and completion and the sense of being whole and enough does not come from external things. It has to come from a deep conviction within the child that can only be imparted by loved ones. So only if the parent reminds the child regularly, you are eternal, you are a fully empowered, fully complete individual. Nothing else can take that away from you.
Wow.
You don't need anything else to feel complete. Like if we can make that a regular mantra, like a regular thing that we tell the child when they wake up, when they're going to sleep, like, I love you with, just the way you are. I love you. I think it's a really, especially in the foundational years growing up until they're about 10 and they don't want to hear it anymore. Go away, mommy. Go away. Leave me alone.
Anyway.
That's so powerful.
You have a very short window to impart that deep sense of security. It's after that, they don't believe you anymore, right?
Yes.
Like after, then you don't know anything.
Yeah.
They don't know. First, yeah, maybe you'll have a little bit more, but after that, you don't really matter, unfortunately. You're just there to provide the food and be there. When I need you, the child just wants you to be there. That's just it. But so the foundational years, it's just more than, of course, math, English, all that's important. And they're going to get it. They're going to learn the math. They're going to learn the English. They're going to learn it. What you may have missed out on is all the other foundational value-based character building, identity building, sharing, connection with the child. That is very short window, and if whatever we can do to really nail that in.
I think it's interesting. We touched on this briefly yesterday, and I think it's interesting with particularly, as you said, with the early years where you've got that period, and because we've gone through this very challenging time when we've been stuck at home, and we've had this awful situation where children have been at home whilst their parents are working, and so they suddenly have a very visual stage
reality
where the parent is going, I can't be with you at the moment.
Yes.
And the parent is there, but not there.
Yes.
Then what you're seeing
so
now,
hard to comprehend,
really
for
hard
the child.
And I think the fallback from that now is, I'm certainly seeing it with my children and with other children, is that there are now behavioural issues as a feedback from that, because you've got to make that line. And because also, I don't know about anyone else, but for me, what's happened is that the lines between work and home have become, I've always worked
They've just become so,
now they're even more blurred than they were before. And that isn't healthy for any family situation, certainly not for reinforcing those situations where your child is important.
Yes, I would just like to add to what Julia and Kishori said, and I completely agree, and such important points you both have made. And from my side, I would just like to add to parents that slow down, bring that grace back into the parenting. When you go out in nature, when you go for a walk with your child, look at the trees, look at the shape of the clouds, and allow that learning to happen, allow that experience to just take in very gradually, you're not in a hurry. We're not in a hurry to raise our children. In any case, they're just going to go away very soon. But so slow down in your parenting, enjoy every moment with a lot of fun. If you are baking cake with a child, bake it with all of that, all you have. Bring all your emotions there. Talk about baking. Look at how the dough is forming. Talk about things and bring learning there. Make that experience a beautiful experience. And second, please do not have any expectations. You should have those minimum expectations of how your child should behave, but don't be in a rat race that my child has done this, my child has done this is this, this is this. Every child
should be behaving this way by this age. They should be doing this by this age.
Yes, every child will grow into a beautiful self. Kishori's already said that we all already are beautiful self, and we all just have to understand where is our window to expand. Where is that window where we need to bring our purpose in life. What can I bring to this life? What is not this is how you're supposed to feel. You're supposed to feel adventurous when you're going on a trek. Well, I don't feel adventurous. I feel something else. I feel tired. I feel adventurous when I'm painting. So we have to allow them to define emotions. Again, I'll bring back to that, and that's my thing.
I was going to go back to just very briefly what you were talking about. I think it was Kishori, about values and virtues, and even in experiential learning, that is important too. And it's not just telling children and schools, oh, you need to be respectful, you need to be this or that, and in this framework that I was working in, and it's not just that framework, many schools now are taking on character education or values. I think we got away from it, so far away from it, but
so far.
Yeah. So in this framework that I have been working in for many, many years, there is a set of profiles, their character attributes that are embedded in everything that they do. But what's important is that the children themselves, and action is a part of the inquiry process, and the children themselves, they have to say, when was I being respectful? Oh yes, I was being respectful there. So there's that element of understanding not just what the word means, but applying it to oneself. And I just wanted to bring that up because I think any education is missing if it doesn't have the part of the values or the virtues. And I don't mean just from parents, I mean in schools too, because that's really essential. Yeah.
My kids go to a Hindu faith school here, and it's obviously a huge part. And I actually have a lot of faith in faith schools because, especially if they're open, whether the Christian schools or Hindu schools, the whole point is to teach people to accept others for their faith, accept others for who they are, and respect them and treat them with kindness, have integrity. Those are values that will actually be needed in life. Those are tools that will we really need to know our times tables? We will. But we have calculators. You've got Google to tell you all the answers on the planet, but will Google be able to tell me how to have integrity, how to feel complete, how to feel fulfilled? Google's not going to be able to help us with that. And if we miss that window of character formation, I feel like the school system will be failing our children if that is missed.
And I just add that I think it can be experiential as well by taking it a step further. Instead of just telling children what integrity means, asking them to give. How am I how am I showing integrity today? And they begin to see that in themselves and in others. And that's empowering. That's empowering. And it is very experiential as well. Yeah.
I love your point about, and also positive feedback from the parents. Like I take every opportunity. One of my kids is very, very headstrong. So everything is a challenge for him. And everything I say is like, no, but I want to do it my way. So I take every opportunity to remind him of the times that he's made the right choice and he's doing well with his, stubbornness, because there's always a positive way to channel that. And So they thrive off that positive feedback. They absolutely, I can see him just light up, because so many of the times the feedback he's getting is, stop doing that, don't be like that, like just, fit in this little box. And it's difficult. He's a very sometimes difficult child, but that positive feedback allows him to truly embrace who he is in a guided, positive light, so that it doesn't become a burden for him, because we're all unique with our unique challenges, and they thrive off our positive feedback.
And yeah, it's hard, isn't it, in those situations where you've got challenging or argumentative children, where the argument never ends.
No.
It is this, and they go, no, but it's because of this, this, and this, and this, and this, and this. And you're like, oh my god, and it can be exhausting, and trying to keep yourself positive. And I think that's where, sort of again, and I sort of go back to words and potentially affirmations and stuff. But for myself. Because otherwise you find yourself getting into the trap with the child where you're not
following.
You're not. Yeah, exactly.
They're like, wait a second.
Oh, no.
We have affirmations.
We can't hide. You can't cheat that stuff.
I'm going to go and do some affirmations, and then I'll come back and finish this argument. It's like.
They are the greatest mirrors, right? You just can't cheat them. There's some people on this planet. They're going to know us in and out, and they're our kids. So it's so powerful.
They're watching everything we are doing, we're saying, and how we are behaving, and they're learning from us. They're observing.
They're observing our behavior more than listening to our words. So actually, no matter what we're saying, it doesn't matter. It matters what we're doing. Yeah. They're learning integrity through our own integrity. So that is a huge lesson for me. When I first was going to be a parent, I had almost like a crisis. I was like, oh my God, it's time to grow up now. I can't hide. My child is going to know every one of my, issues. Like, now I can't hide. There's going to be someone on this planet that knows me better than I do, almost. And that's a child. That is a 5-year-old will be able to mirror the real us more than anyone else around us. So that's
powerful statement. It's a powerful thought.
Yeah.
Yes.
I just wanted to ask you, Kishori, where are you now? I didn't get where you are. Where are you?
Oh, I live in Leicester, but I'm actually at a friend's place in London. We had a busy weekend. We live in Leicester. Yes. Okay. Where are you, Julia?
London.
I think we all are in the UK.
Yeah. Oh, would love to meet up one day.
Next year it's going to be a real life event. We're going to make it happen.
Yes.
We're coming to an end of our. So is there anything else? If anybody wants to quickly pop any questions or comments into the comments, then do. If you want to get in touch with us after the festival and ask Author and me any questions, and they can put you in touch with Kishori or Julia, then please do that. Put it in the comments or contact Author and me directly. But we have again another packed day, so we're going to need to move on a little bit. But any closing parting words from any of you for all of our parents watching about experiential learning?
I think we all have said enough, but
I would like to say teamwork makes the dream work. Like listening to Julia and Ekta and you, Sarah, that's actually, when you've got your own ideas of parenting and everything, but it just blossoms in a completely different way when you're sharing with other like-minded people. And I've learned so much today, and I really appreciate it.
That's
it's been so wonderful.
Something that happened the other day, and again, sort of post pandemic and everything, is that you hadn't spent as much time with other children and other families. And my other half went out with a friend of ours and their child. They went rock climbing, and he came back and he was like, it was so nice to see someone else's child behaving as badly as ours are. And you forget that, and you suddenly think, your children are the ones who badly behave. They're all like that.
We need each other.
Yeah, we need to see other parents going, oh my God. And then it's okay.
I think it's been such a wonderful start to this festival today, because I almost forgot we were in the festival. I thought we were just having a lovely chat.
It's so true. Thank you so much, everyone. It's been great.
Thanks so much for joining me. And do hang around. You can watch more on Facebook and YouTube throughout the day. And there's lots of things going. But thank you both so much for joining us. It's been absolute joy. And we hope to see you again next year.
Sure.
Yes.
Thank you so much. I'm going to do we'll do the round of applause. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Right,
Bye-bye.
let's
Bye.
Here we go. Oh, and
I'm still here.
I know you're still here, but I've got to find you. There's so many things in the bottom. There we go. Okay. Well, that was absolutely wonderful. I really enjoyed that. If you've got any comments or anything that you want to pop in, or as I say, contact Author in Me, and we will answer any questions that you have. I'm just going to remind you a little bit about Author in Me, and then we'll come back with what's up next, which is Creative Hour. So children, get ready. You can come back in now, and this is going to be a little bit interactive. So get your pens, pencils, paper ready, and then there'll be things for you to do. So I'm just going to remind you a little bit about Author in Me, and then we'll come back.